This is half past paper, week 28 for the foundation tier, a non-calculator paper today. So here we go. We've got all the odd numbers today. Let's get into it. Question number 1, change 40 centimetres into millimetres. So we know that 1 centimetre is 10 millimetres. And so if you're going from centimetres to millimetres, you would be multiplying by 10. And if you're going from millimetres back to centimetres, you'd be dividing by 10. Here we've got centimetres and we're going into millimetres. So we're going to be multiplying by 10. 40 multiplied by 10 is 400. So 400 would be your answer there. For question number 3, on the grid, reflect the shaded triangle in the mirror line. So if a point is on the mirror line, it's going to stay there. But this point over here is currently 3 squares away from the mirror line. So we need to make sure that when we reflect it, it also goes 3 squares away on that side. So it's going to go over here. And then we just want to use our straight line tool, join it up to make a triangle that looks like that. You don't need to shade it, but you don't need to label it or anything like that unless it tells you to. So there we go. That would be fine for 1 mark. Question number 5. Write these numbers in order of size, start with the smallest number. So to compare percentages with decimals with fractions, we want to make them all the same format. I'm going to go for percentage here. So we've already got 45%, 0.55. Now to go from a decimal to a percentage, we want to times by 100. So that's going to be 55%. And a half is 50%. 50 out of 100. Which we know is 50%. So there we go. I've got 50%, 55%, and 45%. Starting with the smallest is going to be 45%. The next smallest is going to be 50%, and I'm going to write that in the original format. You don't have to, but in the mark scheme, it's going to have these original numbers, so just making the examiner's life a little bit easier if I can. And then 0.55 is my biggest, 55%. So that goes there. But any of the numbers, if you use the percentages, the examiner would know what you mean. I've just chosen to write it in the original format. Okay, question number 7. Simon buys some candles. Each candle costs £2. Simon pays with a £20 note and he gets £6 change. Work out the number of candles that Simon buys. So if each candle costs £2, he pays with a £20 note and he gets £6 change. First thing I'm going to do is 20 take away 6. If there's more on the floor, borrow from next door. 10 take 6 is 4 and 1 take 0 is 1. So the candles cost £14. That's how much he spent to have got the £6 change. Now we just need to know how many £2 make £14. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. So he must have bought 7 candles. There we go. Question number 9. Here is a sequence of patterns made from grey square tiles. On the grid below, draw pattern number 5. So we're starting with just a square, and then each time we go up a pattern number, we're adding 1 square on the right and 1 square down below. Same for the next one, we've added another square on the right and another square down below. So we just want to keep going like that. And so we're going to end up with an extra square here and an extra square here to get to pattern number 5. So that's going to be, let's use my ruler here, 5 going across, 5 going down, and then like this. Wonderful. You can draw it anywhere on the grid as long as it's in that orientation, and if it was a bit right and a bit down, that's fine. Complete the table. Pattern number 1, pattern number 2, pattern number 3, and so on, and how many squares they had. So pattern number 1 had 1 square. Pattern number 2 had 3 squares because we've got an extra 1 here and an extra 1 here. Pattern number 3 had 5 squares because we've got an extra 1 here and an extra 1 here. Pattern number 4 had 7 squares. So because we're adding 1 to the side and 1 underneath each time, we are adding 2 each time we go up a pattern number. So 1, 3, 5, 7. This one's going to have 9. We can see that here. And so pattern number 6 would have 11 squares. Question number 11. At the end of October, Fiona's electricity meter reads 88,738. At the end of November, her electricity meter reads 89,198. Each kilowatt hour of electricity Fiona uses costs 16p. Work out how much Fiona had to pay for the electricity she used in November. So from 88,738, they don't reset your meter every month, they just look at the difference. So the difference between these numbers is how much she has used. So to work out the difference, that's going to be a subtraction. 89,198 take away 88,738. Now if there is more on the floor, you borrow from next door, but we can do that. 8 take 8 is fine. 8 take 8 is 0. 9 take 3 is 6. 1 take 7. Now there's more on the floor there, so I'm going to borrow from here and make it 11. 11 take 7 is 4, and 8 take 8 is 0, and 8 take 8 is 0. So 460 is how many kilowatt hours of electricity she used. Now each of those she's going to be charged 16p for. So I'm going to do a multiplication here. You can either do 460 times 16 like this, but I know a lot of students find it easier to use the lattice method here. So each box gets split diagonally like this, and I'm going to write 460 across the top. That's why I've done 3 boxes wide, and 16 here. That's why I've done 2 boxes going down, and make each of those lines a little bit longer. Now 0 times 1 is 0. So in that box there, because I've got 0 at the top and 1 at the side, I'm putting 0, so I put 0, 0. 0 times 6 is also 0, so we put 0, 0 there. 6 times 1, that's 6. So I'm going to put 0, 6 in that box, and 6 times 6, that's 36. So I'm going to put 3, 6 there. This one needs 0, 4, and 4 times 6 is 24. Now all we do is add down each diagonal section. So in the first diagonal section I've got 0. 6 add 0, this one is 6. 6 add 4, add 3, add 0 is 13, so we put 3, and we carry the 1 into the next section. 4 add 2, add 1 is 7, and so that is 7,360 as my answer. There was nothing here. So that is in pennies. 7,360 pennies is what she's being charged for her electricity. I really, really hope she's not going to have to pay 7,360 pounds for her electricity. So we need to do some converting here. 7,360 pennies. To get that into pounds, we are going to divide by 100. So that is 73 pounds and 60 pence. Question number 13. There are 15 sweets in a jar. 4 of the sweets are red. Jill takes at random a sweet from the jar. Write down the probability that the sweet is red. So if there are 4 red sweets out of 15 sweets in the jar, that is going to be our probability. 4 out of 15. There are only green counters and blue counters in a bag. A counter is taken at random from the bag. The probability that the counter is green is 0.3. Find the probability that the counter is blue. Well, we know if there are only green and blue counters in the bag, the probability of taking green or blue must add up to 1. It's certain that if you put your hand in that bag, you will take one of those 2 colours. So the probability that the counter is green is 0.3, which means blue is the rest. So I'm going to do 1, take away 0.3, and that is 0.7. So the probability of taking blue would be 0.7. Question number 15, work out an estimate for the value of 92 times 1.63. You must show all your working. So when we're estimating, we're just going to round the values, and we round them to one significant figure. So I'm going to say that 92 times 1.63 is roughly equal to 90 multiplied by 2. You could do 1.5 if you want to, but I tend to do one significant figure. 90 times 2 is 180. So that would be my estimation there. Then for part B, it says, given that 2.96 times 3.2 is 9.472, find the value of 29.6 times 32. So because these digits haven't changed and these digits haven't changed, our answer digits are not going to change. So we know that those digits are correct. What we need to work out is the place value. Where are we putting that decimal point? So there's a couple of different ways you can do this. This is roughly, in a similar way that we did up here, it's roughly 30 times 30. And 30 times 30 would be 900. So it makes sense for me to put the decimal point here. I know that the answer is going to be close to 900. So that's one way you could do it. The other way you could do it is to say, well, this number has got 10 times bigger. and this number has got 10 times bigger. Therefore, my answer is going to get 10 times bigger and another 10 times bigger, 100 times bigger. So whichever way you look at it, the answer that we come to is 947.2. It's only 1 mark. We wouldn't be expected to actually calculate this, although you could. It's going to take you a little bit longer, but 947.2 is your answer there. Question number 17. 72 people did a test. 20 of the 32 adults who did the test passed, and 6 of the children who did the test failed. Use this information to complete the frequency tree. So I've put 72 at the beginning here. That's all of the people at the beginning, and then we need to split them off into how many adults and how many children. Now it says 20 of the 32 adults who did the test passed. So I know that there were 32 adults who did the test and that 20 of them passed. Therefore, if there were 32 adults, the rest of the people doing the test must have been children. So if I take the 72 people all together and take away 32, we're left with 40. So 40 children there. Now we know that 6 of those children failed. So 6 children failed, which means the rest of them, which would be 34, passed. I'm doing 40, take away 6 to find out how many passed. Last but not least, we just need to work out how many adults failed. And if we know that 20 of them passed, again, we're just going to subtract. So 12 of them must have failed for that to add together there and make 32. Perfect. Have we got a probability? Yeah. One of these people is picked at random. Find the probability that this person is an adult who failed the test. So one of these people is picked at random. We are picking from all of the people. So it's out of 72. What is the probability that this person is an adult who failed? Well, adults who failed are those 12 people there. So the probability would be 12 out of 72. You can simplify that, but we're not asked to, and you don't need to for probability, so I'm going to leave my answer as 12 over 72. Okay, question number 19. Increase 240 by 20%. So always a good amount to find is 10%. You can find 10% by dividing by 10. So 10% is 24. 240 divided by 10 is 24. So 20% would be another 10% added on. And so we know that 20% is 48. Now it doesn't just say find 20%, it says increase it by 20%. That means we add it on top. So I'm going to take the 240 that I already have and add on my extra 48, which is 288. And then we've increased that number, made it bigger by 20%. For question number 21, we have a stem and leaf diagram. Here are the ages in years of 15 people. Show this information in a stem and leaf diagram. So stem and leaf diagram is a chart or a graph where you put the tens on the left over here. So I need to put numbers in the 19s, or numbers in the 90s, numbers in the 10s, numbers in the 20s, numbers in the 30s, and numbers in the 40s. And then on the right, we don't put 19, we just say, well, I just need the 9 now. Now, first thing I'm going to do is put them in the stem and leaf diagram, not in order. I find this easier. It means that you don't miss any. If I just go through these and make sure I put them all in the right row. So 27 is another 7 in that 2 row. 37 means another 7 here. 25 goes here. 27 goes here. 37 goes here. 17, so that's a 7 in the ones row. 45 goes here. 47, 25 and 26. Now we need to put that in order. So I do like this draft one here, and then I do my actual one. 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s. So here I've got 17 and 19, but I need to put them in order. So 7, 9. For the next row, again, I need to put these in order. So the smallest numbers there are 5. So 5, 5, and cross them out as you go if you want. And then 6, 7, 7, 7, 8 and 9. And then we've got 3, 7, 7, that's in order for the 30s. And 5 and 7 for the 40s. Now it's in order, and I just need to do a key, and the key just needs to explain how a stem and leaf diagram works. So I might just use the first number, but you can use any number you like. 1 line 7 equals 17. and this is ages, so 17 years old. You don't need that, so don't worry too much if you haven't put that in there. And that's now in order. Last thing I would do is check. We know that they asked 15 people. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's perfect. Just a good way of checking that you haven't missed any, or hopefully haven't missed any. So there we go, 15 there. Question number 23. Solve 7x minus 27 is less than 8. Now you would do this in the same way that you would solve an equation if it had an equal sign. So I'm going to do my dotted line here. Some students like to change it to an equals and then put it back to an inequality, but I often find that students forget to put it back. So I personally don't change it, but that's up to you. We're going to start by adding 27 to both sides. Reason that we're doing that is to get rid of the minus 27. To solve, we just want that x left on its own. So I'm getting that x on its own by getting rid of the minus 27, adding 27 to both sides. Now I've got 7 lots of x is less than 35. But I don't want 7 lots of x, I just want x. So to get that, I'm going to divide this side by 7 and also divide this side by 7. So x is less than 5. That's my answer. We need the inequality on the answer line. You can't just put 5 on the answer line because it's important that x needs to be less than 5 in order for 7x minus 27 to be less than 8. Question number 25. A delivery company has a total of 160 cars and vans. The number of cars to the number of vans is in the ratio 3 to 7. So when I see ratio like this, I like to lay it out 3 parts here to 7 parts here. 6, 7, and these are your cars, they would fit on these lines, and these are your vans, they would fit on these lines. Each car and each van uses electricity or diesel or petrol. An eighth of the cars use electricity, 25% of the cars use diesel, and the rest of the cars use petrol. Work out the number of cars that use petrol. So first, let's work out how many cars and how many vans we have. We know that all of this, is equal to 160. So I need to share the 160 equally over those lines. And I've got 10 lines, 1, 2, 3, and 7 on the other side. So I've got 10 little lines there. So 160 divided by 10 is 16. So we know there are 16 cars and vans, 16 vehicles, let's say, on each of these little lines, which means that there are 3 lots of 16 to work out the number of cars, and 7 lots of 16 to work out the number of vans. So cars, 16 times 3, 3 times 6 is 18, and 3 times 1 is 3, add that 1 is 4. So there are 48 cars. And we could do 7 times 16 to get the number of vans, but I'm interested in cars here, so that's what I'm going to go with. 48 cars. Now an eighth of the cars use electricity. So an eighth of 48, to find a fraction of a number, we divide by the bottom and then multiply that by the top. So 48 divided by 8 is 6, times that by 1 is just 6. So an eighth of 48 is 6. So 6 use electricity. 25% of the cars use diesel. So 25% of 48. Now remember, 25% is a quarter. So we're going to half it and half it again, or divide it by 4, and that is 12. So 12 use diesel, and the rest of the cars use petrol. So I've got 12 add 6, which is 18. 18 cars that we've worked out use electric or diesel. So the rest of them, 48, take away 18 is 30. So there are 30 cars that use petrol, and that would be your answer there. And that was 5 marks for that one. Question number 27. Here is a regular hexagon and a regular pentagon. Work out the size of the angle marked X. You must show all your working. So a 5-sided shape, a pentagon, to work out how many degrees in total we have inside the pentagon, we do the number of sides, which is 5, take away 2, times by 180. So the formula to work out how many degrees are inside a shape is the number of sides, take away 2, times by 180. So in this case, we've got 3 lots of 180, 180 times by 3, which is 540. So 540 degrees in a pentagon. Now, because it's regular, all of those angles inside, all 5 angles, are going to be the same. So I'm going to do 540 divided by 5. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 does not go into 4, so we've got to carry that 4 over, and 5 goes into 40 8 times. So each of these angles inside is 108 degrees because it's regular and it adds up to 540. Now on this side we have a hexagon. So again, if we want to know how many degrees fit inside that hexagon, we do the number of sides, which is 6, take away 2, and times it by 180. So 4 times 180, and you can do it like this if you need to. 4 times 0 is 0, 4 times 8 is 32, and 4 times 1 is 4, add the 3 is 7. So I know it needs to add up to 720 in total, and we've got 6 equal angles inside that shape. So 720 divided by 6. 6 goes into 7 once, remainder 1. 6 goes into 12 twice, and 6 goes into 0 0 times. So each of these angles here is 120 degrees. Now if we come to that point where x is, I know that angles around a point all the way around here need to add up to 360. So I've got 120 and 108 so far, and that makes 228. I then want to take that away from 360. So 360 take away 228. If you've got more on the floor, you're going to borrow from next door. So 10 take 8 is 2, 5 take 2 is 3, and 3 take 2 is 1. So the angle there, x, is going to be 132 degrees. That was 3 marks for that one. Question number 29. Here are two cubes A and B. Cube A has a mass of 81 grams and cube B has a mass of 128 grams. Work out the density of A to the density of B, and we want that as a ratio. Give your answer in the form A to B, where A and B are integers, so whole numbers. So I'm going to start by drawing the triangle for density. Formula triangle, density, mass, volume, like that. We cover up the thing we want to know and we do the sum that is left behind. So if I would like to work out the density, I'm going to need to do mass divided by volume. So I'm going to need the mass, which I've got, 81 grams and 128 grams, but I'm going to need the volume, and at the minute I don't have that. These are cubes, so to work out the volume, we need to do the length times the width times the height. And because they're cubes, we know that all of the length, width and height are the same. So for cube A, it's 3, 3 and 3, and for cube B, it's 4, 4 and 4. So the volume of A is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 9 times 3, which is 27 centimetres cubed. And for B, the volume is 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16, times that by 4 is 64 centimetres cubed. Okay, so in order to work out the density of A, that's going to be the mass of A divided by the volume of A. So the mass of A is 81 divided by the volume of A, which is 27, and 81 divided by 27 is 3. So the density is 3 grams per centimetres cubed. Now the density of B is going to be the mass of B divided by the volume again. So the mass is 128 divided by the volume, which is 64. And 128 divided by 64, well, that fits in 2 exact times. So 2 grams per centimetres cubed. Now they want that as a ratio, the density of A to the density of B, and that's going to be 3 to 2. Give your answer in that form. A and B have to be whole numbers, and we've got that. So your final answer there is 3 to 2. And that's all 41 marks of that paper. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments if you've got any questions on any of the topics. I'd be more than happy to help. And remember that you've got the names of each of the topics on the front of the paper if you need more practice on any of the topics and you want to know what they're called. Fabulous. I will see you guys next week for week 29.